So,
Tell me, give me your rant about Aunt Jemima and her getting
erasing Aunt Jemima. Oh my god, dude. That is the worst. I don't know how that's racist, because that is a strong black woman in a time where women didn't have rights. She lived in a time when black people had barely any rights, and she still pulled herself up to become one of the most iconic food branding. I don't know. Either way, she is an iconic figure. That is way too cool for people to be erasing from history. So, from my understanding of the story, Aunt Jemima, who had a different name of some sort, I don't remember, she was a slave, and Civil War happened, I assume, or she was freed soon after. She needed a job, so she went to, I don't remember the name of the company that... Quaker Oats Company? Yeah. No, it's...
Let's find out. Let's see here. History. Character.
Yes. And Jemima is based on the...
Oh, here you go. Enslaved mammy archetype. Okay, but the actual character.
Yeah, I want the actual Jemima.
1864 was the first one.
Okay. So, American style... Getting a...
Ragdoll versions. Controversy. Now, I want to know about the actual woman. Performers. Here we go. Oh, Lillian Richard. I think this is the one.
Yes.
Remained in the role for 23 years. Yeah, this is the one.
Richard was born and grew up in the county.
She moved to Dallas, worked initially as a cook. Her job pitching pancakes was based in Paris, Texas.
This is it.
After she suffered a stroke in 1947 and 1948, she returned to Falk, where she lived until her death in 1956. Richard was honored with the Texas Historical Marker. Wow, in her hometown, dedicated to her name on June 30th. That's pretty cool.
So, she...
Oh, no, this is the one. Anna Robinson, I think, is the one who's actually pictured.
Yeah, Chicago World Fair, that's her.
Yep, this is the Chicago, yeah.
This is just strong women. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Neither do I.
Because you're just going through a role of women who pulled themselves up from nothing to become an icon. Oh man, I didn't know there was this many Aunt Jemimas. This is cool. So, audition for the appearance, stereotype, slender Nancy Green. Blah, 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 blah. So, I'm just going to go and skip ahead. So, basically, at a fair, she was slinging pancakes, and she was so popular as the role of Aunt Jemima that they had to put security around her. And this is a time whenever black people were very segregated against. They were not these... People were not happy with black people. This is very soon after the Civil War, and by soon is relative, but America is not that old, so...
Right.
Either way, this is back when racism was very prominent, if people didn't know. So, Aunt Jemima, or whichever one I'm talking about, probably multiples, was so popular while she was slinging pancakes that they had to post security around her. Meaning, everybody at this fair was so enthralled by this woman, she was so popular there, that there was lines upon lines waiting for this woman to make them pancakes. She ended up becoming, I assume, what we know as Aunt Jemima, which is the lady on the front of the delicious Aunt Jemima it's not maple syrup, it's just syrup. Who cares? Pancake syrup. Sugar. On our sugar. It's just... She had nothing. And she performed the role for years, making money, supporting a family. And this happened over and over again. Like, this is cool. I don't see why people would want to take this out of history. Like, this is cool. This is a woman who didn't have a whole lot of rights, and most of the time women, guess what? They stayed at home. They didn't do anything.
Well, and this is a really good quote from the grandson, too. Yeah. She worked for Quaker Oats for 20 years. She traveled all the way around the United States and Canada making pancakes. All around the United States and Canada making pancakes as Aunt Jemima for them. This woman served all those people, and it was after slavery. She worked as Aunt Jemima. That was her job. How do you think I feel as a black man sitting here telling you about my family history they're trying to erase?
Dude.
And that's from her own that's from her, great grandson or whatever?
Yeah. Come on.
Right.
Like, you're talking about a story that family is proud of. You're erasing it. You're erasing history. You're erasing a figure that is important to us healing from, I hate to say it, but a really ugly wound. as America, as Americans. Like, I mean, come on, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. You know, I don't see how people with a good conscience could see that as racist.
And I don't either. And I mean, it's funny because, like, it's so funny because I haven't seen this article. This ABC article was just posted just a few days ago, and it's talking in here how she was born into slavery, and slavery in Montgomery County, just like you were talking about here. After the Civil War, she moved to a deeply divided Chicago, becoming a strong voice at the Olivet Baptist Church, the city's oldest black congregation. The church was noted for its work to shield those who had escaped slavery. Williams had been a shining light on Green's story for more than a decade, giving Underground Railroad tours of the neighborhood in the past few years. She was experiencing slavery, walked through all of the experiences, the essential workers that we should salute from today and times to come. Williams needed the approval, to get Green they're trying to get her a headstone.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Dude, how?
Hayes, after remembering hearing stories of Green's pancakes, it was so good the boys would now tell everyone the milling company heard about it. They just came and sought her out. It made its debut in World's Fair in Chicago in 1939. As legend tells it, Green sold 50,000 boxes of the now famous pancake mix. She was the trusted face. Back then, anybody who looked at an African-American woman cooking, they knew they could trust her cooking, that she could cook. But for all those years, ads by Quaker Oats of Aunt Jemima never mentioned Green. Green lived until the age of 89, but died after being hit by a car in Chicago in 1923. After her death, female ambassadors hired by Quaker Oats continued the legacy. Lillian Richard was one of them. So Richard put her small Texas community on the map as a result. Hawkins, Texas is considered the pancake capital of Texas. That's really cool.
Pancakes. How far is it from here?
I don't know. Look it up.
All right.
Unlike Green, Richard has her own headstone and plaque in Hawkins. The town also holds a pancake breakfast every year. One of my cousins, she would dress up in the same type of clothing that my Aunt Lillian had. She would get up and tell the story to those that attended the ceremony that did not know. That's really cool.
It's by Tyler. It's a hot minute away.
Oh, that's okay.
It's next to Dallas.
That's only 6 hours. That's not bad.
To the right about, probably another 30 minutes. So it'll probably be about an hour or 6 and change.
Harris added, I believe that some people may have thought those faces were not real. Now Harrison Hayes says those real faces and real stories are in danger of being erased. In June, Pepsi Company, Quaker Oats' parent company, announced that Aunt Jemima brand would be phased out by the end of September. The sudden news in the midst of the country's racial reckoning shocked both families. I was taken aback. I was really shocked. I know people didn't realize that those were real people, to phase them out would kind of erase their history. Hayes worries about Green's legacy when the brand goes away. She's not just a character. I really want her legacy to be told. This is a real question, and this was her recipe. She fed the world from her flapjacks. So...
Because I know we've all made them.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I've been intentionally going out of my way to buy more of it because they were getting rid of it.
Yeah, I can't see how that's a fight against racism.
Pepsi has announced the plans to commit $400 million to various causes to help with diversity, but so far has not contacted Hayes or Green or announced a definitive future of the longtime brand. Hayes and Harris both hope Green and Richard are part of that future. We don't know what it would be called as long as we don't know what it could be called as long as she is somewhere in the mix. Call it Nancy Greens, he said. She went on, it's not about the money, it's about the truth. After a decades-long push, Williams was finally able to raise enough money to give Green a proper headstone and marker. See, and that's what pisses me off
if you wanted to rebrand it from Aunt Jemima to Nancy Greens, I would get that. I would get
Greens, Aunt Nancy's.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's cool. Aunt Nancy's.
Aunt Nancy's would be cool.
Yeah.
But to say that you're completely erasing her picture and her history from it, that's just wrong.
I can understand rebranding it from the ambiguous Aunt Jemima to the real people. That I respect.
Maybe a picture of the actual woman versus maybe the Aunt Jemima logo per se.
Yeah.
But
granted, it probably strikes pretty similar to her actual face. I haven't seen the.
Oh well, that's what this one down here is. Well, that's one of the pictures of her.
Yeah.
But I mean, we don't. I mean, yeah. Obviously,
either way, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just. I'm just saying, like, yeah, sure, make it look more like her. Yeah, do that, but don't fucking take it off the shelves. Maybe rebrand it. That's cool. I respect that.
Right.
Make it real. Like, they look pretty similar. I mean,
that's actually that's pretty similar to the look of her. So I don't see, and that's what I don't. What's the issue with the picture? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that just looks like a very. I mean, little sister, my grandma Odessa. Like, my grandma Odessa is like a 6'3" black woman. And she's not the kind of person you mess with, but she loves everybody. And I knew if we were going over to Grandma Odessa's and Grandma Odessa's was cooking, yeah, that was going to be badass. Like, her peach cobbler, holy shit, man.
Yeah.
You know, and her collard greens, and I mean, God almighty.
I hate collard greens.
Oh, I love collard greens.
It's one of the few foods I genuinely don't like. I'll eat it if I'm hungry. And that's all there is, but like, hey, it's one of the. I eat pretty much anything.
Yeah,
it's one of the few foods I do not like.
But I just like, I don't get. And the funny part about this is they polled black people. Guess who buys more Aunt Jemima than everybody else in the country? Black people. Okay, so if it was racist, why are black people buying it?
Crazy, right?
You know, this is white liberals. Too much time on their hands and have nothing better to do than to erase this wonderful, beautiful woman's fucking legacy. And it's so wrong. It's so messed up. I love Aunt Jemima.
Imagine
like, I never want... Like, I grew up with... Like, my grandparents were very old school. Like, my grandfather still had kind of his racist ideals to a certain degree when I was growing up. There is not once did I ever hear a disparaging word about the fact that we had Aunt Jemima syrup. You know, there was no negative terms about it. Nobody ever said a derogatory word and then Aunt Jemima syrup. You know, it was Aunt Jemima syrup. That was it.
Yeah, it was good
it was
syrup.
Good syrup. It was good pancake batter.
Yeah.
Like, that's all we ever thought about.
Yeah.
Like, what? Oh, SJWs piss me off.
I just don't like the overcorrection that erases history. Or I get, okay, if there is something that is racist, okay, take it down. Cool, that's fine.
Right.
But, and I mean, if it's your brand, I hate to say it, but we live in America, First Amendment. We have the right to say what we want. If somebody's racist, they're racist.
Right.
I love the story of the guy. There's a blues musician who has turned a few hundred, 200 KKK members.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. His music's good.
Go ahead, keep talking, though, because I'm going to look him up, because he's really good.
Yeah, he talks about, he was, the first story I heard about it was him talking on it. He was on JRE, and he was doing a concert, right, at a bar, and there was a dude, and he was like, he talked to him, and he was like, yeah, I'm part of the KKK. And he was like, I've never talked to a black person before. And he was like, what? He's like, hey, well, how about, I'm going to be in town a few weeks later, right? In a few weeks, I'm doing a tour around the state. And let's sit down. You pulled him up. Daryl Davis. This is one bad son of a bitch. I like him. That is how people should be.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, let's see here. Okay, so let's give a little backstory. We'll give a little backstory real quick. Yeah, so check this out. So let me pull this up real quick here. Okay, so Daryl Davis, the black musician who converts Ku Klux Klan members. I remember hearing about this guy too. I remember hearing about him on the news, and I thought this was freaking cool as all hell. Let's see here. After an encounter with KKK members in the 1980s, the accomplished pianist turned his focus to curing racism through education. Daryl Davis is a musician, a pianist to be exact. He has jammed with the likes of Chuck Berry, Jerry Lewis, B.B. King, and even Bill Clinton. Good old Slick Willie. Loyal to music but not to genre, he plays jazz, blues, rock and roll, country, boogie woogie, swing, big band, and beyond. No matter the musical style, Davis will play it. Well, this is... Okay, here we go. So when he entered the Silver Dollar Lounge in Frederick, here's his story. In Frederick, Maryland, for a country gig one fateful night in 1983, being the only black man present did not perturb him at all. While this was not his first country gig at Silver Dollar Lounge, it was his most significant. After he and his band finished their set, Davis was approached by a patron who was around 15 years his senior. Not an unusual occurrence for a working musician. However, while praising Davis on his performance, the patron candidly noted that he had never seen a black man who could play like Jerry Lewis. More curious than offended, Davis used this encounter as an opportunity for a friendly discourse rather than outrage. I explained to this older white guy that Jerry Lewis was influenced by the same black boogie-woogie and blues piano players as I was. Davis says with a chuckle, he didn't believe me. Then I told him that Jerry Lewis is a good friend of mine, and well, he didn't believe that either. But he was fascinated. So he asked me to join him for a drink. He continues, I don't drink, so I had a glass of cranberry juice and then took his glass and cheered me. Then he said, this is the first time I've ever sat down and had a drink with a black person. I was instantly curious and thought, what's going on here? So I asked him why. He didn't answer at first, but eventually admitted that he was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. This is a story Davis shares on lecture stages and in classrooms, both nationally and globally. It is an important anecdote as it marks a
cataclysmic.
Cataclysmic? I think I spelled that wrong. Cataclysmic?
Yeah, it's cataclysmic.
Catalytic moment in which Davis... This is a story Davis shares on lecture stages and his classrooms, both nationally and globally. It is an important anecdote as it marks a catalytic moment in which Davis's trajectory pivoted him from working musician to race relations crusader. What began as a hobby gradually transformed into a calling. So yeah, check that shit. Oh, look at that picture.
That's fucking dope.
That is dope.
That is just like the thuggest move you could possibly pull.
Right? Like, how hardcore is that?
Well, dude, this is so cool. He has a collection of hoods and capes and all that of dudes who gave them up to him.
No, Does he really?
Yes, he genuinely does. He's like, yeah, no, I have a bunch of them. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, no, they gave them to me because they stopped. They were like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna be a part of this organization anymore and what they stand for. Yeah. So they gave them to him. They're like, I don't need them anymore.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Ku Klux Klan formed in 1865. That's so awesome.
Yeah. What's his count? He has like 100 and something that he's...
I don't know. Let's see. Well, let's see here. It's one of Davis's first. Eventually, Kelly began inviting Davis at his home and Klan rallies. Finally, Kelly quit the Klan, shut down his entire chapter, and as a trophy of sorts, gave his robe to Davis. This was not the last Ku Klux Klan robe that Davis would be gifted, nor was it the last Klansman he would befriend. So yeah, this is fun. This is cool.
This is America, dude. This is an American. Fucking just you talk shit out with people. That's a mesh of two people who have completely conflicting views and you come to an understanding.
Yep.
Even if you don't agree, you come to an understanding. That's
Absolutely.
fucking cool.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go on.
No, you're good. No, yeah. And you're right. That's exactly how we should handle things. So let's check this out. So okay. So finally, yeah, yep. Okay, so I still perform sometimes and would much rather be on stage playing happy music all the time and seeing people dance than be talking about the KKK and neo-Nazis. He says with a laugh, I found that lecturing and talking and educating people is far more important than necessary. So let's see how many, wow, he lived through the cases of assassination. So, but yeah, like this is...
That's, I'm just saying, that's how people should be. You shouldn't, fuck, dude. People are talking about racism, but they forget people like this exist. This is who solves racism.
Yes.
This is who solves ignorance.
Right. Not social justice warriors trying to cancel Aunt Jemima.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to sit down and talk to Davis about Aunt Jemima. Just things in general. I feel like he would just be a great... music. Oh, dude, that'd be phenomenal. And it's just... You find that in communities like the music community, in communities like the military community, different things that people are really passionate about, there's no such thing as race.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
There's really not.
No. You realize very quickly whenever you love something or you hate something enough, we're just blood. You know, we're blood and organs. There's no such... It's melatonin. Is that what it is? Melatonin? No.
Yeah, it's melanin.
Melanin.
It's melanin in your skin. But yeah, melatonin. Yeah, melatonin's the stuff that makes you sleep.
I
know,
melanin. Yeah.
And and it's really funny. There's an old saying from the military, and it was there's one that was talking about. There was one that was this is where it popped into my head. Is there's no such thing as an atheist in a foxhole. Because like when you're getting shot at, everybody's praying to God, and it's one of those things where at the same time, when you're in the military, when you're getting shot at, it doesn't matter what color the person is sitting next to you or standing next to you is, as long as they're shooting back at the other guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, nobody else gives it. Like, this is what irritates me about racism, okay? Mm-hmm. I am a child. I am a mutt, okay? I am half Mexican, half Heinz 57 sauce, okay? My little... no, that's what I always call it, because there's like Italian and Irish and Scottish and all kinds of other shit on the white side of the family, right? Okay, and then you have my little sister, who's half black. She's mulatto. I have another little sister who's 100% German, Wisconsin white. Her dad grew up in Wisconsin, right? And I have my other little brother who's a quarter Korean. And I grew up thinking... in 100 years, racism isn't even going to be able to exist anymore, because we will have inbred. We will have mixed the races so much by intermarriage and having children and all of this other kind of stuff that the future would consist of people like me that are a little bit of everything. And not a little bit of everything. And even then, given, it's one of those funny, it's like I knew what racism was. I just thought it was stupid because my grandfather, he's from a much older generation. So he still has a little bit of racist connotations, but at the same time, I've never once heard my grandfather insult a black person or be mean to one or anything like that. My grandfather loved my little sister just as much as he loved me and anybody else in my family. Yeah. There was never a question in my mind whether or not my grandfather loves my little sister, and it never made any sense to me. And the fact, and it felt like it was dead because nobody gave a shit anymore. Nobody cared about it. I thought it was dead too. And then political correctness became a thing. And then everybody started getting so sensitive. So instead of having the kind of comedians, of like the days of Richard Pryor and all the rest of the guys back in the 70s and 80s and 90s and the early 90s who they could say anything and do anything, they were making fun of racism and they were making it into a joke because that's what we all thought it was. People at my age, people that I hung out with, we all thought racism was a fucking joke. How stupid could you be to hate somebody just because they had a different skin color than you? That was the most retarded thing ever. I had thought racism was dead up until about 2 years ago when all of this, well, I'd say less than that. I think it really started to become more of a thing when Obama got elected. But it was one of those, because they started talking about race. All of a sudden, race mattered again. Where when I was growing up in the 90s, it didn't matter what color that football player on my poster at PE was telling me to drink milk. He was telling me to drink milk, and he was a badass football player that made millions of dollars. I didn't care if he was what color he was.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that I thought it was dead. I genuinely... You probably don't. No, I gotta stand for a minute. My knee's hurting.
No, I feel it.
Yeah, I thought growing up, if you didn't like somebody and they happened to be black, it was because they were an asshole. I didn't think it was because of race. Mm-hmm. And I still don't.
No.
I've never disliked someone because of race. One of my best friends is black. Honestly.
You met my brother Ontavius.
Yeah. I don't see it. I don't see why.
Right.
He was my friend that I'm speaking of. He's a corpsman in the Navy. He didn't give I've never once heard him talk about race. He didn't give a shit about it. Me and him BS'd. We're both nerds. Like, he taught me, like, how to play D&D and stuff. Like, he's just a cool dude. I never once thought, oh, he's black. He has a son who's halfy, I believe. And then his other kids, they're white. Yeah. He's never once made it. Like, he jokes around, but he's never once made any racist comments. I've never met anyone who's made racist comments about him. If you would not watch the news, you would never believe racism still exists.
And that's the other thing too. Like, if you go back and you look at the statistics on it too, it's one of those things where the statistics even say, like, I think they did a poll back in, like, I don't know, like 2008. I think they did it like 2019. They did one. They've done one every year for however many years going back. I can't remember what it was, but basically what it was they considered every year for like probably the past 20 years, race relations had consistently gotten better according to black people. Yeah. Like it was one of those surveys where it was like, what do you think? Do you think how often do you deal with racism in your everyday life? And it was one of those things where, like, over the last 30 years, that number had just gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. But then you ask this general question of, do you think racism is still an issue in the United States? And they'd always say yes. Overwhelmingly, they said yes. But what I think a lot of that had to come from, I think a lot of that came from the news media. Yeah. Because they're the only people that ever talk about race. If a black guy walks through the freaking store, I don't judge him on the fact that he's black. I judge him based on how he's dressed. Yeah, and it's the same thing with all the white people that come in here too.
It sounds bad, but a lot of the black dudes who come into our shop, they're better dressed than most of the Hispanic people.
Yeah.
Sorry. They look less, and I'm putting air quotes around this, thug, and like, I hate to say it, but I'm a lot less if I'm going to be intimidated by somebody because of how they dress and think that, oh, this person might do something bad, it's never really a black dude. I don't think I've ever felt that way with a black dude in here. It's usually a sketchy white dude who looks strung out.
Yep.
Honestly, if I'm ever worried about my safety, it's not black people.
Right.
It's usually somebody who's strung out, and it's all the black people I've ever known. They're upstanding citizens. They're good people. They work hard. They're badass dudes. They kick ass at work. They kick ass in their social lives. They have beautiful, loving families. Like I don't see it. Right. I don't see it. It's just, I hate to say it, but if we're being really honest, I'm a little jealous of most of my black friends because it sounds like they have better families than me. More close.
Way more close knit.
Yeah, it sounds like they have better social interactions with their families than most white people I know. Like this whole the black families are torn apart and blah blah. I don't know. I've always liked those people. I've always liked the family atmosphere there. I don't see the statistics that say that.
Okay, so you want to know my solution for it? The solution is to stop referring to people by their color, and if you want to talk about, so let's say you want to talk about the status in the inner city. Okay, so instead of talking about, oh, well, it's a bunch of black people in the inner city, instead, why don't you, because of the fact that not all black people live in the inner city and not all of them are thugs and grew up in the hood, let's instead refer to hood culture or ghetto culture, right? Because there's plenty of ghetto white people that you see walking around dressed in baggy pants with do-rags on and face tattoos and all that other kind of crazy stuff. So there's plenty of white people that do that kind of stuff too and act like that and dress like that and listen to that kind of music. So instead of referring to it like that, let's refer to it as like ghetto culture, right? Which ghetto culture could include, saggy pants. It can include the way you dress, and a lot of that stuff, the saggy pants thing, that kind of that goes across to black people and Hispanics both, but it's more hood culture. It's more ghetto culture versus being specifically Hispanic or versus being specifically black or versus being specifically white. Same thing. You can have trailer trash culture, which generally most people would term that towards white people, but that's not always the case. I've met trailer trash that was of other colors than white, black, yellow, all that other kind of stuff. So instead of referring to things as a racial culture, let's just refer to it as the culture that it is. It's the inner city culture. It's the ghetto culture. It's the trailer park culture. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let's refer to it as the country culture. Yeah. Instead of talking about race, because when you say, well, it's the black people's culture, or it's the white people's culture, or it's the Asians' culture, or it's the Jews' culture, well, then everybody gets offended. Yeah. Everybody gets butthurt. But if we just say, well, that's how the community in the inner city is, or let's talk about it as a culture, stop talking about it as a race, because we've moved beyond race. There's too many things that intermix now. Like my family is too intermixed. My little sister used to get shit from the other black girls at school because she talked white. Why you talk so white? Well, my little sister would look at her and go, 'cause my mom's white. And it's like that, saying that just because she's a darker skin tone than you, or just because she's a skin tone that is similar to yours, that she has to act the way you act, that's fucking racist. That is racist as shit. Telling my little sister that she has to talk like she's from some ghetto-ass hood place that grew up without any parents that cared about her just because she's the same color as you. Yep. Fuck you.
That's my problem. You're talking about people like they're all the same.
Yeah.
I think that's disrespectful, for one.
Yep.
Because I don't know two people that are the same. Unless even twins. I've never met two twins that are the exact same.
No, and they have the exact same genetics.
Yep, they look exactly the same. It just is disingenuous to people.
It really is.
I don't like it.
Have you ever heard Abraham Lincoln's argument on racism?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so
I might have, but I just don't remember.
Okay, so Lincoln had this argument. So he tried to justify slavery, right? Lincoln tried to justify slavery in his mind. It was a thought exercise he went through. And so the argument was, okay, well, they're darker than us, so we should enslave them. Okay? Well, if you're going by that particular context, if that's your qualifier, well, what happens when somebody comes into the room that's lighter than you now? What if you're a dark-skinned, you just happen to be more of a dark-skinned Caucasian?
Yeah.
Right? What if that person, well, now that person gets to enslave you because they're lighter skinned than you. Okay, so let's get rid of skin tone. Well, they're dumber than us. They're naturally dumber than us. That's why we get to enslave them, because they're closer to animals. Okay, well, by that justification, then what happens when that happens? Well, then if I'm smarter than you, then that means I get to enslave you, right? Well, nobody wants that either. So now that whole argument's gone out the door too. Yeah. Right? So that was Lincoln's kind of thought process for trying to work out the idea of racism, trying to make an argument for slavery. And he couldn't, because you can't, especially nowadays, you can't look at somebody and go, well, because you're black, that means you're stupid. Have you met Ben Carson? You know what I mean? Colonel Allen West? Like, have you met these guys? Thomas Sowell? Like, you can't say just because somebody's black, they're stupid. No. Like, no one can honestly say that anymore, because it's bullshit. Now, you can say somebody grew up in a hood culture and never became educated because they grew up in that hood culture. I could see an argument for that. Yeah, but just saying because he's black, is he stupid? Well, I'm sorry, Ben Carson just knocked that fucking thing out of the water.
Coleon Noir? I'm sorry.
Who's that?
He's gun guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's black. He's from a single-parent household in not such a nice neighborhood.
Yep. Ben Carson grew up the same way.
Guess what? He became a lawyer.
Yep.
And then he quit being a lawyer.
Yep.
And became a gun advocate. Not everyone's the same. Most black people aren't gun advocates.
Nope.
Guess what? Not everyone's the same. Like, it's just you're asking me to generalize people and make assumptions based on appearance.
Yep.
I'd rather have a conversation with somebody for a few minutes.
Absolutely. And people try to get mad at white people for going, what did Dr. King say? What did the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King say? Judge me by the content of my character, not the color of my skin. And now they're trying to say it's racist for people that look white to say that. What? You're trying to use Reverend King's words against us. No, we're not.
I'm telling you what they were.
Yeah. Like, that's what he said.
He was fucking right.
He was.
People are doing it, and not just white people.
Say it one more time.
People are being racist, and it's not just white people.
Facts.